The Miami Heat made a blockbuster trade today, acquiring Terry Rozier from the Charlotte Hornets. And among this trade, there's a very interesting real reason why they ultimately did this trade. So we're going to break that down in this episode. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We noticed a large percentage of you guys who are watching, 98% are not subscribed. So make sure you hit that button if you haven't already. Now, Houston, what a day. If you're a Heat fan, a wild trade. You covered it earlier. And there's a lot of other things kind of among the surface and below the surface regarding this trade. But let's just get right into it. Houston, what's your initial reaction? I know we made a video about it earlier today, but before I do get into the actual reason, I think this was a finesse. I think it was a great deal for the Heat. Makes sense for Charlotte as well, but only a lottery-protected first-round pick. Heat fans are very, very happy right now.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal trade for the Miami Heat. They really got a good point guard that's going to fit in extremely well in Miami, playing alongside Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, in a culture, in an organization of the Miami Heat, being led by Eric Spoelstra. And Terry Rozier, he's going to fit in perfectly. His his numbers are great, but when he goes to Miami, obviously things are going to be a bit different than they were in Charlotte, but he's going to fit in just fine, and it should be a great piece for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, and let's get into some of the real reasons, and especially you made your reaction video. A lot of Heat analysts, reporters are starting to kind of dive into what this could mean going forward, and maybe even a potential trade that could be coming. So let's get into that right here. You can see the financial implications by Bobby Marks. You can basically go and read it. For the Heat, the pre-trade tax was $29.4 million. Post-trade now it's down to $13.9 million, saving them $15 million and creating a trade exemption that they already had a bit of as well. Houston, I think ultimately the Heat are not done. The trade deadline is still a little bit, a couple weeks, 3 weeks away, February 8th, I believe. This is getting very interesting now because they made this move very early on, a lot earlier than I expected. Makes sense because the Hornets wanted to get the job done. But, I mean, you got Rozier and offensive firepower. Do you think they make another move soon? And I'm going to bring up a potential name that they could maybe trade. There's some rumors about it. I probably won't happen. But I think now they address their big firepower. But do you think a superstar trade could be coming in the form of maybe a bigger trade, which I'll get in a second? But I think more moves are on the way.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was another move made by the Miami Heat. Again, they were the first team to really jump out and make a big splash before the deadline, getting Terry Rozier. It's going to be interesting to see what really path they take from here on out. Again, like you said, almost 3 weeks. It's like 17 days, I believe, until the deadline. It's going to be interesting because we do still have assets. We only gave up one draft pick. We only gave up Kyle Lowry in the sense of personnel wise. It's going to be interesting. Jovic is still there. Caleb Martin, who I am very high on being traded, is still there. And along with other draft compensation, obviously, because we only did give up one draft pick, which is still 3 years away in 2027. So it's going to be interesting. I think they have the ability to do it. Whether or not they actually pull the trigger is going to be the big question, and how big the price tag on that superstar possibly is.
Yeah, so they saved, we kind of been making a bunch of trade videos. Nikola Jovic still on the team. They still have some first-round picks. And, of course, there's a guy now, which I'll get into, and there's been talks about it. There's been some videos made and some articles. Tyler Hero is a guy now. You can kind of have it on two different perspectives here. You can see here, the Heat now have Terry Rozier, who averages 23 a game, Hero 22, Bam 22, Jimmy 21, Hawkins and Robinson 14 apiece. Unbelievable offense. But the question I'm going to ask you and ask everyone is, do you think that maybe they got Terry Rozier, who does similar things to Hero, at least in scoring, very efficient, very similarly efficient numbers? Do you think maybe now they potentially move Hero, Jovic in a first or something in a deal for a bigger superstar, like we've mentioned, Donovan Mitchell or someone like that? Or do you think they brought in Terry Rozier to kind of be the sidekick to Tyler Hero throughout the season? Because a lot of people are saying maybe they could, maybe this was the replacement for Hero and they might have another trade lined up. I don't know if that's true, but it's an interesting thing to discuss.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. The idea of moving Hero is just insane to me, just in the sense that we did just bring in Rozier. I don't think it's out of the picture when I say it's insane, but I do think if we were to move Hero, his price tag is along the same lines as someone like Donovan Mitchell, someone along the same lines as Zach LaVine, somewhere in that group of player, due to the fact that he really has his offensive game has ever since he came into the league, it's been there, and now it's even getting better and better. I know the shooting percentages have really dipped from game to game, but again, it's just a bad stretch. When he's on, he's a problem. Tyler Hero, that is. He is a freakish offensive scorer. So it's going to be interesting. Will he be moved? It'd be really cool to see him moved and see what Miami could get back in exchange for him. But if I had to make a bet, I would say that they keep Tyler Hero. Maybe next year, maybe the year after that. I don't know that he is moved. But again, Rozier and Tyler Hero, it's going to be great. You did mention all the star power in the starting lineup. I will say the Miami Heat are the only team in the NBA to have four active starters average 20 or more points. It's a hell of a combination right now. It's going to be interesting to see what they do from here on out.
Yeah, and we obviously are discussing the Hero stuff. I think they're going to see how it at least works with Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero, because at the end of the day, if everything goes well and their defense can be what we know it's capable of being, it's a very scary starting lineup, maybe even the scariest, at least offensively, in the entire league. And you got him for a protected first-round pick, which conveys to a pick 2028, I believe, if it isn't in the lottery, which is very interesting. And again, looking at Rozier's stats, I made a video on him about a week ago. I thought it was going to take a lot more than one first and an expiring to get him. 23 points per game with Charlotte. Now, you mentioned the 20 points per game as the starters. I suspect someone is going to have to take less points per game going forward, and that's why I kind of brought up the Hero thing. Whether it's Hero taking less shots, probably Rozier taking less shots, it's going to be interesting to see. But do you think they're going to gel well as a team? Do you think, I'll ask you this question as well, and you can leave it in the comments as well if you're watching now. Do you think Rozier is a starter, or do you think he comes off the bench and they don't mess with what they have, or do you think he was replacing, I guess, what Lowry was before he got moved to the bench and all this drama happened?
I think Rozier is a starter. I think Rozier is definitely a starter. He's starting point guard for the Miami Heat from here on to the end of the season, bearing Eric Spoelstra doing what he does, which we can't crack him for because he's very good at it in creating these new lineups, generating new things, and really giving new opportunities to the same team that he's working with, just in a different capacity, I guess you could say, with moving specific people to the bench, finding the rotations that really work. I think Jovic is going to be the one if traded. If anyone's traded, I think it's Jovic because of his young side of things and his upside. But again, it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure if they'll actually do it. But again, Rozier is definitely going to be a starter. He might not. He might come off the bench one or two times just to figure some things out. But definitely a starter.
Yeah, he's proven he can start at this level, and I mean, he started every game that he's played since 2019. So again, but we also know that it's Eric Spoelstra, and he could bench maybe for the first few games, see how it's going. But I think you mentioned as well, if they do want to make a bigger or another splash, we probably won't get one bigger than this unless they move Hero. Nikola Jovic is probably the guy who they do move, but again, they still have a pick or two they could trade. It's going to be very interesting, but it's interesting that the Miami Heat kind of, I guess besides the New York Knicks and then the Pacers, kind of made their move early, and we're kind of seeing that this trade deadline. And any final thoughts on this move or anything regarding this trade before we wrap up? It's a fun time to be a Heat fan, and hopefully he dresses up soon.
I'll just say that for contract comparisons, the Terry Rozier's contract is on the same level. Basically, it's almost identical to these players. DeJounte Murray, Jalen Brunson, and Jaren Jackson Jr., those three guys are considered all-stars in either conference, and now Rozier is now plugged into the Miami Heat lineup, and just it's going to be a great time to watch. I can't wait to see how it does gel. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, let us know what your thoughts are on the trade in the comment section below. We'll probably have more videos covering this in the future because this is a big move, but hopefully they make another move soon as well to kind of complement this. But that'll wrap it up. See you guys tomorrow.